Hello and welcome to Vlogoween number 31, the finale. Nothing special happens in this one, but there will be another video up after this, possibly even the same day, maybe tomorrow. We shall see. I told you that today's movie was an old silent movie that was very important for horror, and I liked it quite a bit. The 1925 silent horror adaptation of Gaston Leroux's Phantom of the Opera, starring Lon Chaney and some other people. No one cares. Lon Chaney, though. Sorry. Something just popped up in the ether. Lon Chaney, this really put him on the map. Actually, some movies before this did. The Man of 1,000 Faces. This was a big one for him. He plays the Phantom, Eric, and it all takes place. You know the story of the Phantom of the Opera. There's this girl, Christine, who is sort of an understudy or whatnot of a girl playing a main role in the Paris Opera House for some show. I don't think it's ever actually said in this one, and I don't remember what it was. Christine is sort of a thing to be admired. The Phantom is in love with Christine, and he wants to give a gift to her by making her the main star and being her tutor and her master and whatnot. And so he keeps threatening the main lead actress to be sick, and it works, and she's revered and whatnot, and he keeps, controlling this opera house to get his way. And eventually he meets with Christine, and she's terrified of him because he wears a mask, because he is disfigured for some reason. I believe it probably says in the book. In the silent film, there's not as much dialogue as you can imagine. And he leads her down into his catacombs, 5 cellars deep. And she's just freaking out the whole time and totally doesn't want to be there. And he's like, "No, I'm in love with you. You gotta like me. I was super nice to you." Now, I had only seen 2 versions of Phantom of the Opera prior to this. I had seen the old Wishbone version, Panton at the Opera. I gotta rewatch that. That scared the hell out of me when I was a kid for the Phantom reveal, because the face looked like chewed up purple bubblegum. In my memory. It's been like a decade since I've seen it. And then the 2004 Phantom of the Opera, using Andrew Lloyd Webber's music. And that one I still like. It's probably terrible. It's been a while since I've seen it. I probably saw it around the time it came out and then never again. Or maybe a couple of years later. But yeah, she is freaking out, and he'd give his entire heart to her, but if anyone tries to take her from him, he is vicious and ruthless and very cunning, and he has many traps, and he knows all the back ways around this opera house. But she is in love with another man named Raoul, but their love can't be because he kept threatening her not to like anyone else. And Raoul ain't gonna take that, so he and what I believe in the book is known as just as the Persian, but in this it's a member of the secret police. They go down into the catacombs and face many obstacles in trying to rescue her. And this is pretty good. I liked it. It hasn't aged well with some of the acting. Like, most of the characters. Lon Chaney is great. I love Lon Chaney. And when I say Man of 1,000 Faces, this is what I mean. The Phantom is disfigured. And every movie kind of does it differently. You got the bubblegum and Wishbone. In 2004, I think he just has like a couple burn scars. He looks not that bad in 2004. I mean, people would still stare at him nowadays, or back then, but, it wasn't that bad. And this one, Lon Chaney did his own makeup, and he painted the whole area around his eyes black, and I forget what he did with his mouth, but then he sort of pinned his nose up with a wire to make it look like he had no nose, or it was like partially, rotted away, or was just twisted in some weird way. And he was mostly bald, and it was just really freaky. And the reveal was so terrifying back in 1925 that apparently some members of the audience would faint and have terrible trauma and were scarred. And that's awesome. I love that. My condolences for your families. But that really put Lon Chaney on the map, and since then he worked on probably 200 films. I don't know the actual number. It's probably closer to like 100. But he did great work in makeup and character acting, and he was awesome. And everyone loves Lon Chaney. And then Lon Chaney Jr. showed up and came into his own way with horror films when he was the Wolfman back in like the 40s. That's a whole other thing. But this was good. I don't know if the soundtrack... I believe the soundtrack was the original from the silent movie, like just the symphony. It wasn't that great. Like they could have... The last like 20 minutes of it was just playing happy, same sort of melody over and over again, and that kind of droned on. They really need to... Some silent movies are great at pairing that up, and some soundtracks are... Because they'll redo soundtracks for silent films. They'll do like I think that was the way for the version of the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, where it was like some band or orchestra in the 80s redid it, and that was the soundtrack version I listened to. But I believe in 1930 they did a voice version of this movie. I'm not entirely sure how that worked. I'm wondering if they just dubbed it, maybe. I don't know. But that I might be interested in seeing. But a really impressive thing about this movie is the set. They had to, because they needed, like hundreds of extras, they had to build a whole new set called Soundstage 28. And it was the first time a set and studio had ever really been built using steel beams and concrete. And because of that, it stood for a very long time. In fact, it was demolished 1 month ago, like late September. They finally tore it down. I don't know why. They probably had a good reason. I know plenty of people didn't want them to because it's a giant piece of history, and some things in there still were unchanged, I'm told. But the outside of it, you wouldn't think it was like some studio built in the 20s. Because you gotta repair a building and reinforce parts every now and then. But yeah, it used to sit by the studio where they did the first Transformers, and then a little bit away from that was where they did, I believe, Revenge of the Mummy. I was reading up about it earlier after I finished the movie. But yeah, this movie was great. It was very important for horror, and a lot of people will tell you that this set the pace for a lot of horror and what you can do with just a little bit of makeup, how spooky you can make things, and how grandiose your sets can be, and that affected a lot of movies down the line. I can't think if there was anything else I wanted to say. Yeah, so that is Vlogoween number 31. We're done! We did it! Hooray! You could have used this as a companion of sorts of what movies to watch. You could use this as recommendations, or you could just not watch this. I don't care. I care so much. But, yeah, I'm going to do a video either today or tomorrow of just listing off all the movies I couldn't get to. And some weren't really... There's one that I added today, which isn't fair technically, but it was a special that I thought about doing. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't know if I'll do this next year or if I'll do another genre of movies in another month. I kind of just did this because I wanted to see a lot of horror movies. Because I've seen a good amount, but still could use a lot more. And I could say the same thing about a certain genre that I wouldn't mind doing a month of or a 2 week of sort of marathon. But This has been running on for far too long. So that's Vlogoween, and I'll see you next video for recommendations, and just maybe I'll see you next year.